Welcome to Rosslare Security. My name is David Bramlett. I am the Technical Support Manager for US and Canada. Today we are going to talk about upgrading to AxtraxNG and upgrading to the latest version of AxtraxNG. First place we need to go is to our US website. Our US website is at www.axtraxng.com. That's AXTRAXNG.com. Username and password for this are both AxtraxNG. And talking about upgrading to the latest software, when you go to our website, we have 3 versions of software. We have the latest AxtraxNG, which is version 2304. We keep the AxtraxNG 22.8 up at this point in time because there are certain times that we need to install this. And sometimes we have to use the Axtrax AS525 if you have an older version. If you have an older version of Axtrax, say it's the 3.19 or 4.13, you would have to upgrade to the latest 4.25 in order to upgrade to AxtraxNG. In our case, we are going to open up our Axtrax. We need to find out what level we are at this point in time. If we go to Help and About, we can see that we are at 21.6 at this time, which is several releases behind. There are several fixes and there are a few enhancements. The first thing that we would want to do would be to go back and we would want to download the software. In our case, it's going to be the Axtrax 23.04. We would choose the 23.04 in cases where we already have SQL installed. Our software can actually install over that SQL, or if we are already at 22.x version. Those releases would be 22.6 and 22.8. Our 23.04 software, all you have to do in this case is double click on your icon and it will install and upgrade over the 22.6 or 8. If it's a release prior to 22, you have to actually go in and delete all of your files and then install the new software. In this case, we would go to our control panel to program features, and the 3 files that we would want to delete in this case would be our server, our watchdog, and our client. Next, delete watchdog, and in any order it does not matter, just as long as you delete all 3. In the case that we are upgrading, we want to make sure that we only delete these 3 files and that we leave all of our Microsoft SQL. Our backup will be stored in the SQL so that once we load our new software, our AxtraxNG will actually look at the SQL software and re-import that software back into the Axtrax, and there's nothing that you have to do. You'll find that it's there. The only thing that you'll need to do after you do the upgrade is to do your firmware updates to your panels. Next, we'll delete the client. Now that we've finished deleting our primary three programs, we want to double check and make sure that .NET Framework 3.5 and .NET Framework 4.0 are loaded into our software. Even though we've already got Axtrax loaded, we may not necessarily have both of those files installed. The way that we would do this is we would go to Reg Edit, and as we were showing here, we would go under Local Machine, under Software. Under Software, we would look for Microsoft, and then under Microsoft, we would go down to .NET Framework Setup. In my particular case, you can see that .NET Framework 3.5 and 4.0 are installed. We're ready to install client. The only icon that AxtraxNG puts on our desktop is Axtrax Client. The server runs in the background, and we do not need an icon for that. And once it installs and we've restarted, we will get a watchdog icon here. Our watchdog is used as a visual to see that our networks and our panels are connected. Okay, we have finished with client. The next thing that we should see is that it's going to check to make sure that there is an SQL installed. As you can see, SQL Server has been installed. Now, just one note to this: if you did not make sure that this was installed either manually by yourself, or if it was already installed by our Axtrax previously, it probably is the wrong SQL server, and I would stop the install at this point in time and go back. In my case, I know this is correct. It's got all the right passwords. Install our server. We finished our server installation. Next will be our watchdog. After we finish the installation of our watchdog, the next software that installed is the HASP driver. HASP is only going to be used once we pass 63 panels. With the 64th panel, you have to purchase software, and you would have to have the HASP key. Now that we're finished, our AxtraxNG will come back and let us know that we need to restart our computer or PC. Telling it OK here does not restart it. You do need to go to your Windows Start and select Restart and let your PC restart. After we've restarted our PC, we'll see that our watchdog is again loaded back up. And if we double click on this, we can see that our AxtraxNG has identified our backup database that was in the SQL. We have our networks OK, panels OK, run as service, so we know at this point in time we can double click on our client. put in our password, and we will have all of our networks and our panels. We can see that our networks are connected, and our networks are okay here. Our panels are connected. Our firmware is always loaded when we install the software. It is loaded onto our hard drive, and it's all of the different panels that you need for this particular software. All we need to do is to tell it OK, tell it yes, and tell it OK, and you will see a countdown start. Our countdown starts at approximately 461. This countdown will go down to 0, pop right back up to a 3. It will set at a 3 count for exactly 2 minutes. Then you will see this count go up to approximately 20-30 count, depending on how big your configuration is, which means how many users, etc. you have in your database. It will download your configuration, and then your panel will be back up and going. You can always monitor what's going on here. If we highlight our network, we can see that we are downloading firmware at this point in time. You'll see that we'll drop down to a 0, and we pop back up to the 3. We've completed our firmware. We're doing our initializing now, which is connecting back up to our panel. Again, this takes exactly 2 minutes. Okay, now you can see that we started our configuration download. You can see from our panels we are connected. We can look at our panel. We see card only, card only. We have now completed our upgrade. Always make sure once you've finished your upgrade, you go to Tools, Database, and do a backup. I always put mine on the desktop. Tell it OK. We'll always close out our AxtraxNG. This is just part of what it does. Take approximately 30 seconds, and we will see our backup come up to our desktop. And there's our backup. Thank you.